Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're gonna talk about Artemis updates. So let's dive right into it. Now, first thing we have to understand, what is Artemis. Artemis is basically back to the moon, as simple as that. Now this puppy is bit upgraded from Apollo era, so it will carry first woman to the moon. Be very mindful of that. They have to make sure the first mission must carry a woman and she must walk on the moon. And then the aspirational goal is by 2024. So you may be like, okay, that's a bit much. And the core of the mission was designed around SLS. That was the core aspect of it, because Orion capsule has already been built and already been verified. So that was their core element. And the difference between Artemis and Apollo is very simple. They're gonna land exactly like Apollo did, but they're gonna stay there, and that is a very critical aspect. So this time they are looking for things that are far more capable, as in like instead of just like carrying bare minimum supplies, they are like, what if you carry something that allows you to extend your stay on moon? That's something that allows you to put habitats there, something that allows you to produce fuel there. So that's the whole reality of it. Basically, that's the whole aspect. The first thing they're gonna do is land. Then it's like, don't try to land, is like to come back. No, don't do Apollo. The Apollo was done in Cold War era as a way to win the war without actually fighting a war. But this time it's completely different. It has to be far more feasible. And the main aim, like Artemis mission, would be concluded when they will have a permanent base. And the whole logic behind this is basically, unless we capture moon, we cannot try to even touch Mars. That's the reality of it. Many people like, we can just go to Mars. No, we cannot. We have no idea how to do anything properly. But the only place we have successfully managed to put humans is low Earth orbit, as in ISS. Think of it this way: even ISS requires a resupply mission every like 1 or 2 times a year, or sometimes even 4 times a year. Imagine how the heck you're gonna do that on Mars. Like, we have no idea, no experience. Unless we build a moon mission, unless we figure out how to do on situ utilization, figure out how to build a proper, reliable, robust habitats, not just carry things there, because carrying things is possible to low Earth orbit, to let's say a Martian orbit, but landing it there, that's a completely different thing. You could have damage, you could have to reinforce it with using Legorith and radiation exposure, all those things. We have to conquer moon before we even dream about Mars. So that's the absolute reality about it. And NASA is working under that same trend. That's why, like, in all Artemis mission, you will see moon in the foreground, and in the background there will be Mars. So that's the aim of NASA. Now NASA has hopefully, at that time when they were giving out the contract, they assumed SLS would be ready, and they have already built the module that is going to carry the astronauts. So that's awesome. But they did not had time to complete any lunar lander. Basically, things that's going to land, that was not there. Thing that can carry human to the moon, done. Capsule, done. Rocket, big and powerful, done. So that was not it. But lunar landing, that was undoable. So they launched a contract for that. Now contract had some requirements there. Now primary requirement was it must use SLS, because that was the complaint, and that's why the contract is lunar landing contract, not like build a whole rocket contract. So SLS must be used as a base, and it should be able to use to basically gateway is another space station that I have no idea why the heck they want to build, but they are trying to build it anyway. It's like that will be there. So you have to have enough delta V to not only go to basically lunar orbit, dock to the station, then de-dock, and then land on the moon, and then come back and dock again, and then come back to Earth. So you may be like, okay, that requires idiotically large amount of delta V. Yes, that's why, because of that gateway. And then out of the blue, three people came up. It's like a national team, which is made of Blue Origin as the primary contributor, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Draper. All these three companies are acting up singularly to inside a national team. They applied equipment. Then you had Dynetics. They applied their equipment, basically suggestions, so to say. But all of them were rejected, and SpaceX was selected, even though SpaceX does not meet the requirement of SLS, whereas like it's a completely independent system. Now primary reason for that was NASA did not have money. NASA was like, government give us $10 billion. Government is like, lol, here's your $2 billion. So reality was only SpaceX was managed to squeeze through, barely. Be very mindful of that. They barely had enough money to SpaceX towards SpaceX, even though NASA had claimed they want to have at least two players. So that's the contract aspect of it. As of now, SpaceX has already won, but then we had a lot of issues, court cases. Now primary basically people who are filing cases are Dynetics and national team. Now the first point of action was GAO, aka Government Accountability Office. Now this is a good thing, because be very mindful, the same action, the same code filings and all that jazz was done by SpaceX in order to become what it is today. So it's not the, oh, they are like, sore loser. No, that's exact same thing SpaceX had to do in many places. Either have to fight for the ability to compete for Air Force option, or even NASA directly against NASA, where it's like, no, we should be allowed to bid for ISS contracts, basically a resupply mission. So that's a normal thing. Relax about that. Like, it's not like, oh, sore loser. No, that's a thing. And NASA wanted to have two option. They flat out said that, like, it's like we want at least two option, and NASA did not provide time for renegotiation and basically bidding. That's the thing that is very problematic. That is so problematic that even GAO agreed with basically national team, where it's like, yes, NASA should have provided you enough time, because they did that to SpaceX. And that's the part where it's like, no, that's a bit unfair advantage. It's like, if you are changing the terms of the contract, if you're like, no, you have to provide us a vehicle in, like, your past budget was $5 billion, now you have to provide us a contract that fits inside $1 billion. Okay, fair enough, but at least give us time to renegotiate, to refigure out things. You did not do that. So that that put NASA under, like, scrutiny, so to say, and legal, for good legal reason. That was the case. But after that, reality was like, government was not going to give them more money. So reality was SpaceX has to be chosen, simply because it was the only option that is cheap enough to afford. However, GAO, basically GAO was like, some aspects are true, but like overall on the contract, it was very clearly specified. It's up to NASA to give you either one contract, two contract, or a nil contract. So given the fact that it was clearly written and stated in a proper documentation, GAO was like, I get it. NASA was like, not the most amazing, but I get it. But you cannot have any claim here. So that was done on 30 July. With that, basically, NASA got a clean bill from GAO. However, Blue Origin now filed another case in basically Federal Appeals Court, Court of Federal Appeals for the Federation Circuits. So now they are on a different level. Now be mindful, there are some things that NASA did that they should not have done, and that is maybe big enough where court may simply decide, no, like NASA did something wrong here, or they have to renegotiate all the contracts and bidding, because some aspects are still like, what you will call iffy. What NASA did was not wrong, but it was like, dude, you should have followed the proper protocol, which they bypassed in some scenarios. So that's a serious issue. Now let's look at the primary culprit here, Blue Origin. Now Blue Origin is in what we call very thin ice. So reality is simply because Space Force is not happy with them. Now we're like, why the hell Space Force is included here? Well, Space Force is like directly contracting for ULA and Air Force. Basically, Air Force wants us to launch have a launch vehicle. ULA provided that launch vehicle, but engine was provided by Blue Origin, BE4. Now this was supposed to be ready by 2017. Now you may be like, wait a minute, there has not been any rocket that is utilizing this puppy. Well, that's the problem. Even Space, basically think of the Space Force is like, dude, you claimed 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and at this point in time they are claiming if it's done before 2021, that would be a stretch goal. So reality is they are not happy with it, and that's a primary contractor as of now. Because be very mindful, New Glenn and all that jazz, they don't exist at this point in time. So this engine must go to its basically people who paid for this. So that's an issue. That's a very big issue. On top of that, they literally stoop down to a limit of patent troll. Now that's okay, like people do that. Patent trolling is a real thing, and people have been exploiting that. But a tier one company like with such a big reputation as Amazon trying to do that, that is pathetic. They literally wanted to patent a rocket landing, even though they did not had any system that could do rocket landing from much high, basically same altitude and velocity as SpaceX rockets does. And not to mention, rocket landing has been done before SpaceX was a thing, and there was even a movie file that was like showed like old 1920s or something, black and white movie, very old black and white movie that had rocket landing. So utilizing that, they protected themselves from patent trolling. So that was really sad. They were actually trying to patent lock SpaceX to a point where they're like, dude, you have to pay us in order to use our patents. So that is even bad. Then we have to come to another aspect. A company as big as Blue Origin generally have multiple projects. They are like, okay, engine manufacturing project, selling to other people, basically building a New Shepard and having a space tourism department. There are multiple departments in that. All of them are behind schedule. Not one. Yes, basically New Shepard did the mission was designed to do, but it was also behind schedule. So at this point in time, if every mission you are trying to do and all of them are behind schedule and by a lot of margin, not by like, if you are claiming 2015, nobody was gonna even blink an eye if you did it in 2016. 70, but the moment you are 18, 19, 20, 21, they're like bit much. So they are not in a very stable ground at this point in time. However, all that being said, they did make some very good points. Now primary of that good point, like very important point, is like there must be two systems. No matter what happens, there must be two systems, because space shuttle taught us this lesson very harshly. Think of it this way: space shuttle was built by the brightest mind out there, but reality was this was a bad system, inherently flawed, inherently hyper expensive. It failed on every single promise it was meant to do. But what happened, because SpaceX, basically NASA at that point in time, they did not continue the Saturn mission, and there was a variant that was designed for like Saturn 5 low scale down variants, which had only 50-ton to low Earth orbit. They never pursued that. They are like, okay, put all our eggs on one basket. Accident happened. It was grounded, and reality was basically NASA went from having the biggest rocket to having no rockets that can carry human, and that's a very big blow. So reality is real. You do not, under any and all circumstances, want to have everything put into one bucket. And be mindful, ISS came very close to being abandoned simply because of this reason, because there was only one rocket Salute system that was doing that, and somebody put a wrong gyroscope there. Salute was aborted. Now thankfully astronauts survived, but here's the deal: the mission was scrapped. Every other Salute had to be inspected, and that time, because there was no non dissimilar system, everything was grounded. If let's say in that point in time, if ISS was going through some trouble, they're like consuming consumables at a higher rates, they had to abandon the system. So under no circumstances that should be allowed to happen again, and that's why basically NASA is funding Blue Origin. That's why they are funding the Boeing. That's why they are funding SpaceX. Under no circumstances they should have only one system. They learned this the hard way. They must have, like, okay, let's say Crew Dragon is taking things, it goes boom, no problem, we have another backup system. So that must be done. And with SpaceX, there are way too many unknowns, and this is absolutely true. Now one of the things is like some things are like a bit stretched, but reality is that they are claiming 16 refueling mission have to be done before it can go to moon. And I'm pretty sure the primary reason this is that harsh, the number is that high, is because of the docking with lunar gateway. So if you bypass the lunar gateway, it should reduce by a lot. But all things considered, at bare minimum, even the most optimistic projection is putting it that you will need at least 8 missions to refuel this puppy completely. And at like practically speaking, 12 missions is bare minimum. But be mindful, what does that mean? That simply means these are rockets that you have to send to orbit, match the velocity, and then dock again and again. And be mindful, ISS can only do that because it has a retrograde system. Basically it has enough system in itself to reposition the orbits and all that jazz. So that inherently increases the amount of consumables. And during that time, like according to basically Blue Origin, this puppy should take around 60 days in orbit before it can go to moon. Now 60 days inside Starship would be very problematic, because at that point in time Starship has to act as a space station, and 60 days will directly consume a lot of material. Directly before you even went to the moon, you are starting to consume your water, your food, all other basically reservoirs. You are starting to consume that. And not to mention, you could have accidents. Like if you are doing something once, no issue. Twice, no issue. Five times, now there is a probability of error. Now do it 10 times, there is definitely a probability of error. Do it 16 times, according to them, it's like there is the chances of something going wrong is really, really, really high. So this is one of the proof points that, yeah, it's everybody is showing animations, but here's the animation in real world, that's far more difficult to do. So they do have some good points. First, there must be two, and second, SpaceX has way too many unknowns. And on top of that, Artemis is also dealing with some other issues. Primary of being, the moment you file a court case and court case has been adjusted, NASA has to stop what they are doing in terms of that mission. Of course, it's only affecting the Artemis division. So the divisions that is maintaining the ISS division, that is maintaining the weather networks, those not being affected, but Artemis is getting affected. So that is wasting time. On top of that, at this point in time, Artemis can be done on fraction of a cost if they just let go of the goddamn gateway. And not to mention, Russia is also bypassing USA. It's like, I can't deal with your gateway, I'm directly going to China and I'm directly gonna land. So gateway is another issue, which again, even though NASA is starting to fund a contract, nobody wants it. It's like nobody wants to have that. And spacesuit development, this is another point of contention, where there's like Artemis suit is far behind the schedule, where they're like, this should have been in final testing. It is not in final testing, and it could take easily by 2025. So that's another behind schedule issue. And 2020 pandemics did have issues on non-critical system. Like NASA has some critical division that must not go down no matter what happens. For example, ISS is the highest priority because there are humans in there. So that's the absolute priority. But things below that, there is a lot of enough things that are like, okay, if we have to be in pandemic, sacrifice this mission, Artemis was one of them. and they must have two players for the long game. Even they know that. This is one thing that everybody is like agreeing on, is that putting every single trust on a SpaceX untested system is unwise. Have something old, have something backup. It's just like, hey, we're gonna do 10 missions on Starship, and then we're gonna do one mission just to make sure the system is active and ready. So people do that. That's a wise decision. You never want to put, and not to mention, we have already learned this the hard way. So that is something they want to do. SLS is way behind schedule. It's like, it's almost a meme at this point in time. When is this puppy is gonna launch? And to give you a context of that, how bad this is, SLS as in, there was a new mission that has been approved and people started to build that mission. Now before you build the mission, physically start to build the hardware, you will select a rocket, because based on your rocket you will get your delta V. If you have too little, you will have a higher boost stage. Basically the rocket propellant that you're carrying on the payload itself would be higher, but if your rocket is very powerful, you will have lower. Now this SLS would be powerful than basically Falcon Heavy, indirectly speaking, as it is using hydrogen propellant. It must have higher delta V's. The Clipper mission was designed for this puppy. Everything like a preliminary study was done on this puppy, but then even NASA realized this will not be ready. So now the contract has been given to SpaceX Falcon Heavy. So they are redesigning the mission to suit that delta V of that puppy. But that's the reality of it. SLS is that behind schedule that even NASA's mission that's supposed to be launched in 2024, even they gave up on it. It's like, dude, good luck with this puppy. It's like, so there is a lot of problems. So probability of them actually sending human by 2024, very low. So this was my presentation on Artemis update. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.